Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again with probably one of the wackiest things you'll see on this type of a channel, and as far as build idea is concerned, and that is raise zombie, exploding raise zombies, and mines. So there are a couple items in this game that kind of heavily encourage you to kill off your zombies or skeletons very quickly, and that kind of just lends itself to be fairly obvious that minion instability should kind of synergize with it. So minion instability gives your zombies, or minions rather, a 33% exploding damage. How should we say this? 33% of their life explodes as damage when they die. And when you try and stack a lot of health for your zombies or skeletons, and then they die, they can deal quite a lot of damage, especially since you can scale a lot of health on these things. I have played both the popcorn skeletons, is what I called it, and raise zombie explosion type stuff in the past, and they were fairly decent, fairly successful. Probably the only real thing I would call summoners, even as a meme. And now you can also do it kind of with mines, which just ultimately smoothens out the gameplay a bit. It doesn't really bring too much new stuff to the table compared to last time I tried this as raise zombies, just self-cast, but it is quite a bit smoother because the cast time on your raise zombie, just manually self-casting it, is pretty fucking slow, and it feels rather bad, and you're only really chucking out like one zombie at a time fairly slowly. Whereas if you attach mine support to it, you can then throw out zombies way quicker, they pop up quicker, or you get more of them popping up quicker at a faster rate. And you can also pre-fire bosses to have like 7, 8, 9 of them up before the boss even starts, which then allows you to just have this huge amount of burst that you wouldn't otherwise have if you're just self-casting it. So each of these zombies hits for something like 500k to 1 million, and that ends up being quite a big nuke and a nice large chunk of burst, like 10 million burst if you have all your mines pre-fired. So all in all, it seems to be a more worthwhile version of the build to be playing, just because it is quite a bit smoother to chuck out your zombies, and the gameplay is a bit more fluid that way. We just have our detonate mines on our left click, so as soon as we throw out any sort of mine, we are instantly popping it, and you get your zombies to try and die as quickly as possible with Infernal Legion, which does 50% fire damage of HP per second, and then also using 2 Erendil scepters, I think they're called, replicas. So I got those from Heist, picked up a couple of them and thought I should try out the mine version of this thing. So I did initially do the regular zombie version where we just summon zombies and they explode, and someone from my chat ended up doing it with mines, and they made a trade with me, I think it was, and then they just like popped off a lot of zombies at once with mines, and I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. I should give that a shot sometime in the future. And that was a while ago, and yeah, here we are, trying it out. So we've got both of those scepters, something like 30% damage per second to the zombies each second, and then the Infernal Legion, and ultimately you only need to get the zombies to like 50% life, and then they explode. And that means that they're damn near instant at this point. The unfortunate byproduct of using mines, I believe here, is that you can't really use the big zombie life mace, which is the Montegruels, because it like halves your amount of zombies you can have out, and that means that your burst won't be nearly as good with this mine setup, which is kind of the purpose of the mine setup for the burst. You still can use it, but then you're just worried less about pre-firing and more about just throwing one at a time and hoping they explode and deal lots of damage. But it also makes them quite a bit tankier, so it takes them longer to explode. All in all, you can see that it does work out fairly well. Haven't done any big single target yet for you, but it should do conquerors in, I don't know, a few seconds. Not instant kill, but just a few seconds. And I'm already been doing like tier 14 to 16 maps since damn near level 80, because it's not the fastest, not the smoothest playstyle still, but it is effective, so just been throwing myself at more challenging content. And you can see I've still got a bunch of summons, and they're mostly just for utility. So make things a bit easier on yourself with defenses and a bit of extra ramping offense and all of that. And I'll go over what they'll do and what the entire build entails right now. So here is our character level 86 necromancer called Exploding Miners. Something about, you know, exploding miners, but not mines as in a miner. You get what I'm trying to say. In any case, it is based around, like I said, a couple of items that just make you kind of want to kill your zombies. So we've got the Replica Irindil Embrace, which does up to 30% of their max life as fire per second. You've got Replica Siegebreaker, which creates burning ground on their death that deals their max life per second. So it does do quite a bit of damage to just like regular crappy mobs, leaving a fairly fat burning ground on the fairly fat damage over time on the ground as a burning ground. And then Infernal Legion, which makes you do lots of damage, fire damage to the zombies per second. Basically, the playstyle ends up being extremely like Fire Trap. You're throwing out a trap, in this case a mine, doing a big initial on hit, and then a bunch of damage over time as well. And one of the main reasons you can do it as zombies these days as well is because of the Alcuna's Will gloves. Raised zombies does not require a corpse, and they also count as a corpse. Count as a corpse isn't too important in this scenario, but to not require a corpse means that you can just summon zombies at will, and you don't need Desecrate or anything like that. So you can see we can pre-fire up to 15 mines at the moment, and then when you move, or you know, detonate, it pops them all off in sequence, and that means that you can have a lot more burst than you would otherwise just summoning zombies without mine, like that. Which is fairly slow and also fairly mana intensive. It's fairly mana intensive this way as well, but a little bit easier to manage, and you'd have to press your mana flask every now and again to top yourself off. But it should, in theory, have a nice popping, cascading, overlapping effect and be just a bit smoother to play than if you would otherwise be just self-casting. So it feels a bit smoother, as I said. And we can have a maximum of 9 zombies at the moment, I think. Yep, 9 zombies. But if you get them to die fast enough, and at this stage I do have them at that stage, you can preload more than just 9 mines. If they're not dying fast enough, then when a new mine spawns past that 9th limit, if you've still got like 9 of them up, then it doesn't explode, it just dies. And it is definitely a decrease in damage there. As let's see if we can, you know, have a good example here as of the importance, yeah, of the how quick you kill them, if that makes sense. So having 2 of these is pretty nice just to kill them off real quick, but I think only 1 is pretty much necessary. You can also do, if you really want, Necromantic Aegis. All bonuses from equipped shield apply to your minions instead of you, and then have Malagaro Lens, which reduces their resistances by a lot, and thus they die quicker. But that'll apply to all your minions as well, and that means your army gets quite a bit weaker. So not a big fan of that. And I do currently have 4 Spectres, 1 Tool guy that just gives a big fat AoE damage over time cloud thing that reduces damage incoming to you, and then I've got 3 Tukohama Vanguards at the moment, which spawn Searing, Scorching Ray totems, and that gives, you know, minus fire debuff. So that's why I've got multiple totems up in my hat here. So Raised Spectre, multiple totems, Meat Shield, and Elemental Army, and I've also got a Guardian that just has a bunch of utility shit on him, so nearby enemies are blinded. A -9 Fire Res hat, a Kingmaker for Fortify, Victario's boots for a bit of movement speed, and then he's got gloves just for some life. In this case, Southbound Grip, I think they are. And with the amount that we scale life throughout the tree, basically your entire tree is just picking up minion life and some minion damage. All of these things are super thick. So the Guardian himself is, let's say here, 126,000 life. Your zombies at the moment, 150,000 life, and don't know what the specters are. The golem is 98,000 life. So they're all pretty thick and shouldn't ever really be dying. And I've just got like 1% life regen, I think, on them all. So that should keep them alive for the most part. Just a little bit in any case. So basically we take the any monster damage, minion damage applies to the explosion of the zombie, so minion damage is still pretty important in the build. Gem levels are really good for life scaling. We've then got 20% more minion life over here, and then the last couple nodes we just take for reduced and increased damage to allies with corpses nearby, and of course as zombies count as corpses. There is this last node as well, which we unfortunately can't get because these are way better, which gives corpses you spawn have 50% increased max life, which is still okay, 50% max life, but it's the same as just increased minion life nodes, since it's just an increase, not a more, and that is typically a very powerful node for corpse nodes, since not much actually applies to corpses otherwise. So for like detonate dead and stuff, that makes this pretty good and these over here pretty good. But since we have a lot of minion life, our zombies counting as corpses doesn't really give us any added benefit for life stacking. Otherwise, you can see we are taking minion instability, so that gives us that big actual damage in the build. We then take all kinds of stuff throughout the tree for minion shit. Our passives, 3 passives, large clusters are 3 notables, just so we can get to the mediums, because the large clusters aren't very important, so it doesn't matter really what you do over here. And then the mediums themselves, the ideal ones are hulking corpses with increased effect. The best one I think is this one here. So hulking corpses and 35% effect. So hulking corpses itself is 25% minion life, and then each of these nodes turns into a 16% minion life node, and then all of my jewels are just trying to do minion life and minion damage. And that's pretty much universal for all of my jewels and all my clusters. That's kind of what we're going for. So yeah, pretty straightforward stuff, right? And then we've also got Fortress Covenant over here, which does 38 increased minion damage, goes up to 45, I think. Yep. And then all of the notables turn into minions take 20% increased damage. So in this case, we have one over here, one over here, and one over here. So zombies take 60% increased damage, and thus they die quite a bit quicker. Of course, that will also mean some of your other dudes die quicker, but it's not too much of an issue. At least, doesn't seem to be. So that's the main cool shit, I suppose. The rest of the gear is just trying to fill out life and resist and stuff. We've got some minion damage on our rings, so that is a delve mod. So these come from delve minion nodes. They're, you know, pretty rare for you to find themselves, but there was plenty on the market for this type of a build. We've then got non-channeling skills just to make mana cost a little bit easier. Though with like just a mana flask, if you have an enduring, you know, it should pretty much take care of things at all times anyway. And then +1 to Spectre and zombies over here, corrupted with life. And then just a +1 int amulet. And I think I chaos spam that. Maybe. Chaos, pristine fossils, all kinds of shit. Basically, we only need the +1 int, and then whatever else you can get. In this case, I was trying to get life, and then crafting mind throwing speed. The links on the zombie are level 21 zombie. We have Infernal Legion, so you can start playing the build from level 8. Level 4 you get Summon Raging Spirits. Level 8 you get Infernal Legion, and then you can start Summon Raging Spirits, and they'll just go explodey mode as soon as you go for minion instability. And then you do that until around level 35 when you get these, and then you can start playing the zombie build. So that increased area, just because the pops really do feel a lot better with some area attached to them, and percent area on the tree doesn't do anything. It needs to be minion area or attached to the minion. We then have minion life, combustion, and blast chain mine. Otherwise, we have Hex Touch, Flammability, and Stormbrand, so that works with Elemental Equilibrium. So when we actually get a Stormbrand out on enemies, it does give us a bunch of extra fire damage. Animate Guardian, Minion Life, Meat Shield, Elemental Army. Already went over the Spectre one. Flesh Offering and Flame Dash, and then Summon Skitterbots and Summon Stone Golem. Could maybe still use a bit of mana on something like a Vitality if we want. We don't have much life at the moment. We'll get a little bit more, but it's not super important. Fairly, capable of taking hits, especially with Fortify and Bone Armor helping out every now and again, and then having all the summons do a whole bunch of the tanking. I've also got the Flask for a bit of exposure there, so just gives fire exposure when we're near enemies. And I think that's about it for things I need to say right now. Yeah, so as I said, still not the smoothest playstyle, still not in love with summoners and all that, having dudes just running around and stuff. But I'll maybe try and hit something like level 90 and push ourselves to end game content, just so that we get a good example of how it goes against all of that stuff. And the last few levels just fill out some life nodes and some jewel sockets. And you can also over here get an Elegant Hubris, so a jewel that basically turns everything into something different. And there's big minion life nodes you can get there, but it's a pretty painful process to divine those or get the right one for minion life nodes, but very worth doing if you're going to invest heavily into this type of a build. So with that said, hope you guys enjoy the little pile of memes that we've created here. Kind of fun, fairly viable. Hopefully it takes on all endgame content. We'll see in the next video, but thank you very much for watching and see you next time.